All right, greetings.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have the illustrious Mr. Taisha Patterson here with me. We're going to proceed with our interview questions at this time.
Okay.
All right, first we're going to start with summer community.
Okay.
With our summer community internships. So as core members, how do we get the most out of our summer community internship?
In order to get the most out of the internship, I think you have to be a part of the internship.
For sure.
And for my experience, I did a housing development where we were trying to incorporate the arts into what we were doing. And because my cooperating business was not familiar exactly with all that was I had to do, sometimes it was, she would give me the option, oh, just do what you want to do, or do. But until I got just truly engaged and engulfed, I didn't have a true experience. But when I decided that, okay, I need to do more, I need to get more involved, it became really enriching for me. And then I became a part of that community. And once I became a part of the community that I was working with, it was like, oh, okay, so I can do this. I can help the kids understand arts through whatever means that we're trying to do. So I spent time, bringing in artists. And we did pottery and clay, and just watching the students and their parents develop and come together as a community. By the time we got to the end of the program, they were like, "So this is our last session? Why is this our last session? Are you going to come back?" And so after the summer, I actually did go back a couple times to do a couple things with them, just to kind of keep that ball moving and rolling for them. So I would say that you really have to be engaged, and you really have to want to be there. If you don't want to be there, you're not going to put the time in.
But it takes the fellows to actually take the initiative to make that experience.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
What should I know before beginning the summer internship?
You should know, I think you should know, first of all, what the program itself is requiring. Mm-hmm. You need to know what NELA is requiring. After you know what NELA is requiring, I think you need to be able to marry that with the community partner that you've been connected with. And you need to be able to make sure those beliefs can actually come together. Mm-hmm. If they can't come together, and as I said, my beginnings were very rough. And it was because they weren't familiar with the program and what the expectations were. They just agreed to have someone to come in and assist.
So you think it's important that we also articulate what exactly we're doing at this space?
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only you need to be able to tell them not just what you're doing, even what you expect to get out of it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you don't give them an expectation, they very possibly you may not get anything. And that's just from my experience. Others may have had a better experience, or they were working with someone who's actually has had this type of thing going on before, but I didn't.
Quick question. When you did your internship experience, your summer internship, was that in the same community that you were planning to do your year-long internship?
It worked out that way for me, that many of the students that I was going to serve, the students that I was going to be serving actually lived in that development. So yes, so I had, after being placed, I was being placed in a high school, and there were a lot of high school students in that neighborhood. So.
And do you think that was important with like connections and becoming very familiar with the community and like the children that you were serving? So do you think that was like very enriching in itself?
It was powerful to me.
Yeah.
When students, I did my internship, I started my internship at Rocky Mount High School. Mm-hmm. And because I started there, and in the community that I was serving, those kids were moving into a new school. Mm-hmm. So as they were actually moving into the school, I was the administrator there that they met. And so it was like mom and dad already knew one of the administrators from the school. And I was able to introduce them to the true administrators of the building.
Sweet. Thank you. What was your most powerful learning experience in your school internship?
My school internship? Yeah. I think the most powerful part of my school internship was the ability to be able to throw out ideas to the administrators, and I would say the most powerful was working with attendance. As I began to work with attendance with the administrators, I saw a great correlation in data, teacher data, and student data. So, and I sort of developed a love for attendance. Even it has spilled over here into my current position now.
And what would you have changed about your internship experience, if anything?
What would I have changed? I probably would have changed. I was placed with one grade level, and so I was very familiar with that grade level. I wish I had had the opportunity to actually broaden the scope. One of the things that Neela actually suggested, even in your internship, that though you may be, excuse me, though you may be in one grade span, have a buddy that maybe you can go and spend a week with in another grade span. And that would be the only thing that I wish I had the opportunity. Because when I came out of, I spent my whole career has been in secondary.
Yeah.
I did my internship in secondary. My first position was in elementary. So I wish I had had that opportunity to kind of work in some grade spans.
For sure.
Excuse me.
What tasks were most challenging to accomplish during the internship?
The task, I think, was actually just working, understanding my role as a full-time student and as a full-time administrator, because during your internship, you are a full-time administrator, and being able to keep the balance. So meeting the demands of both. And I have to say that my administrators, they treated me as if I were a part of the administrative team. So I had all of the rights and privileges thereof, except suspension. So just finding that balance of being a full-time employee as an administrator and also a full-time student. I think the biggest challenge was just getting the paperwork, that paperwork.
Which one would you say was most difficult? Having to fulfill your teacher role and be a NELA student, or being in your school internship and being a NELA student? Which one probably was the most profoundly challenging?
Being the teacher, and because as a teacher, I still had children.
Yeah.
And when being at school, I still had to teach.
Yeah.
When I was there, and so when those kids didn't understand, well, I'm doing this and I'm in this program and it requires this. No, they wanted my attention, and because I was a band director, it was expected because I had performances, I had contests, I had things that my class still went on. So being a teacher, I think, was probably the most challenging.
I'm experiencing that now. What would be an ideal internship? What would an ideal internship look like for you?
An ideal internship would be one where you have an opportunity to actually be coached, or have someone coaching with you side by side, giving you opportunity to kind of expand, but then often bringing you back to reflect. So if you have someone that can tell you, okay, these are your parameters, this is what you can do for us, how do you fit in, and then give you the opportunity to grow into that, and then come back to the table and reflect on those ideas. I think that's that's probably the best internship that anyone could possibly have. I would say that I think I had that. I was able to grow as an administrator. I was able to share my ideas. I think it's all right to hear no. I didn't hear no. Yeah. But I think you need to hear no sometimes, so you don't develop that false sense of I can do anything.
For sure. So how low risk do you think that environment was? The internship environment, just knowing that if I fail, it is okay, or did it always feel like everything was high risk?
I felt like it was okay.
Yeah.
I felt like if I knew that if I made a decision and it wasn't the best decision, I knew that someone would be there to say, okay, this, and they were going to hold me up, and they would tell me, okay, next time think about this. Now, there were a couple times, and I can think of one in particular, where the principal, the assistant principal of the dean of students, they allowed me to handle a situation alone. They were there, but I had to have a conversation with the parent. I had to present my evidence. I had to show everything. And they sat there sort of taking notes. So after the meeting, they could debrief with me. So, but I felt like I could handle that. It was a tough situation, but I felt like I had enough. I was confident enough I could handle it.
I think that's one of my biggest concerns. Right? It's like failing miserably, not being able to like, remain like resilient in that, right? And come back the next day with a fresh mind.
Well, I think the best part about that is that, as I said, with an internship, your neck is not on the chopping block, so to speak. The principal, the assistant principal, they're always going to be there. If you have developed that relationship, they're going to be there to support you and help you through the process. And it should be a coaching tool. Mm-hmm. If it's not a good coaching tool, if that principal is not coaching you, I would say, ask. If it's not a good coaching tool and you don't have those conversations, I would say to you that you should ask Neela for another opportunity in another school. Because one of the things that I did find very helpful was as much as I hated doing those contact logs, I actually saw my growth in those contact logs. And when I shared that information with my Neela coach, he was able to help me to kind of frame my ideas and my thoughts. So just having those open conversations with my Neela coach and my cooperating principal and my cooperating assistant principal, that was really beneficial for me.
What factors influence your decision to attend the Neela program?
You don't want the truth. Actually, I felt honored, because being an administrator is something that I wanted to do, and I never could seem to get my timing together, and timing is everything. And so when this opportunity came about, I was able to the timing was there. I had the support that I needed, and I thought, I'm going to be in the Northeast for a long time, and the kids in the Northeast, they need someone who cares about them. Yeah. And I grew up from the southern part of the state, but I was still in a very low socioeconomic place, and I had opportunities that helped me, and I believe that these kids in the Northeast, they needed the same opportunity, but they needed someone who actually understood where they come from.
For sure.
To help them.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish you would have known in your first semester or your first year of the Neela program?
Well, I knew it. I wish I had probably. I think I probably wish I would have adhered to it a little better, and that was the readings. We had lots and lots of reading, and I can remember the very first second class that I had with Matt and Bonnie, and they were trying to teach us how to speed read. And I wish I had continued to practice that, because even now that I'm in the field, speed reading is something that I really need. Yeah. And I don't have that under my belt the way I need it. Yeah. And learning how to skim and still get my point, I need that.
I think that's something that I'm still working with as well. Mm-hmm. Like, right, I'm a very close reader. I'm not having like these intellectual conversations with the text, mm-hmm. and sometimes like I just spend way too long on like one page, one chapter. Yes. That I'm deep in it, and yes. So I still have a whole 2-3 chapters to go, and I've spent 3 hours on one.
Yes, and because I would sit in class and they will read this and I'm reading and I'm really engaged with this text, and I'm really pulling some ideas out, and I want to write. I don't do a lot of highlighting, but I want to write and do some notes on the side. And they're talking about read fast, and I'm like, no. So I need to but I wish I had taken the opportunity to really delve into that, just to get that under my belt, because as an administrator, you don't want to sign anything without reading it. Yeah. But you don't always have the time to read everything that comes across your desk. And you're going to be expected to know everything that happens in your building. Sitting in this chair now, I didn't know that everything was my responsibility, but everything is your responsibility. And, you know, I mean, even down to what happened in the cafeteria that you didn't see, that no one told you about, that someone has made a telephone call. And so you spend some time going to find out, well, what in the world really did happen in the cafeteria. So everything. So you don't have that time to read. So you need that.
What do you wish you had more of during your time in NELA?
Operation NELA.
Yeah.
Operation NELA. I wish we had more of it because NELA was so practical and so hands-on. I wish we had spent more time with our Operation NELAs. Not only just in the exercises, but also in the debriefing of why it was important. We did lots of reading. You know, we did do scenarios, but the Operation NELAs were most powerful to me.
Okay.
I think I would wasn't the less that I would want, but I think it would be the arrangement of classes. Some of our classes, and I know that they had to make them fit where they could, but classes like budgeting, you know, that was really powerful. And I wish we had more sessions and more time with budgeting. The law, exceptional children, powerful. As an administrator, I would tell you, if you don't follow the education law, you're not gonna be working long.
And this is a perfect segue to the next question.
Okay.
What classes and programs did you find the most helpful?
Okay. Wow.
And you answered two of them already.
Yeah. So you really need budgeting, and you really need the law. And the budgeting piece comes, as I said before, you're in charge of every piece of your school. And if you don't understand budgeting and you don't understand your monies and how your monies are spent, unfortunately in my district we don't get the money or in any district the money is not in your hand. There's an imaginary number somewhere, there's an imaginary place somewhere that makes your money, that pays your bills. But you have to know all those imaginary places and numbers and PRCs, and we didn't do a lot of that, and I wish we had spent a lot of time with that. The projects helped me. The projects they did help in understanding budgeting, but being able to actually sit down and spend time with the budget and balancing budgets. And, you know, even today I was presented with, you know, I'm with some Title I things that I have to do for this summer. And I'm having to make some tough decisions because I made a mistake early on listening to some advice that probably wasn't good advice. But if I had known from what I know today, if I had known it then, I wouldn't have made that decision. So now, so budgeting is important. The law of education. I have in my building, I have students who are, and probably in every building you'll find this. I have students who are mainstream, or they have IEPs, but they are actually in the regular population of students. I have students who are my inclusion students and my resource students, and you would not believe some of the laws that are written that protect them, and they're good laws for them, but you know, you just can't suspend them because they do whatever. And you know, they may need to be suspended. Manifestations, they work sometimes, sometimes they don't. But you know, taking an exceptional child off the bus, and if the parent can't transport them, you have to put that child back on the bus. There's so many different things, so many different laws that support them that you really need to know them.
We're actually finishing up with our law class now.
Okay.
You're talking about something that's cumbersome.
Yes.
That's in long and tiring readings. I tell you.
And see, we had you all had a semester. I took. We didn't have a semester. We took it in a summer session. So those are the type of things that, you know, just the placement of the class. Yes.
What readings have you found that to be like the highest, has had the highest impact on your practice thus far?
What readings? Can I tell you at this point that at the time I was in NELA, I wouldn't be able to answer this.
Yeah.
But if right over my head is
Teaching with love and logic. Yep.
Teaching with Love and Logic. This is probably, for me, the most powerful. It's in here. I have purchased one for my house, and I ride around in my car listening because I've learned that if you don't love your students and you don't love your staff and you can't do it logically, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And the Kool-Aid of NELA, so to speak, because it is so non-traditional, you really need to, you need this type of thing in your life. I love Teach Like a Champion. Every week I give a quote or some practice from Teach Like a Champion to my staff. That's a part of everything that we do. I have to be honest with you, many of the books that we were reading in class, at the time, I just felt like they were a read.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself now, when I get in a crunch, or I did something, I remember something, I'll go back and pull those books. So I have a set of books here, I have some behind my desk, then I have some at home.
Yeah.
You know, so I pull them, you know. I can't say, this is probably my best, my favorite.
Yeah.
But the others I pull often.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't throw them away.
Thank you.
Don't give them away. Don't sell them at a yard sale, flea market. Keep them. Keep them.
What advice do you have for the newbies, so to speak?
At what phase?
Any you choose any one of them.
I would say if a person is going into NELA,
Yeah.
I would say that you really need to check yourself. Find out, what do you believe about educating children? What do you believe about coaching adults? And having the understanding that if you don't have a calling and you're not passionate about what you're doing, do something else.
Yeah.
This has got to be, you've got to be passionate about the work. If a person is already in NELA and they're moving towards graduating, I would still say be passionate about the work, but know how you have grown and know what you're willing to give back to the community. If you're not willing to give back, find something else.
For sure.
Find something else.
I appreciate that one.
And if you are getting ready to walk out the door and you have your cap and gown, I would say be ready to work the work, because much of the things that will cross your desk, you didn't get it then, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's in you, but you didn't know it. And there are many days I sit and I can think about, oh, I did this. There's a remembrance. And I would have to say, even in talking to my assistant principal who graduated from a traditional program, she talks to me all the time about knowing instruction, because NELA made sure we know instruction.
Yeah.
We are not managers. We are not, we're not the people who are out here bossing children around. We're not the books, the butts, and the behinds. We are data driven, and you have to be ready for that. Yeah, so I would say be ready for the work.
I appreciate that one too. And how did you? And this is probably one that I need your best advice.
Okay.
How do you balance your time while in NELA?
Balance time. Who knows how to do that? I would say that you have to go back to Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
Those first days of NELA and you're learning Stephen Covey, keep the book close. Reread and reread. But what I have found is I've had to take some time for Tysher.
Yeah.
If I don't take time for Tysher, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I can work all day. My day is 7. I work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But even in the course of my day, I now make time for Tysher. I make time when I go home. I have time for Tysher. I made myself a promise that I'm not missing I will not miss another family event.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to do family.
For sure.
You know, you just have to you have to prioritize, keep a schedule, and follow the schedule. And I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I didn't have it at one time, but I'm realizing now that you have to have a schedule. You have to prioritize, and it comes for me on Sunday. I sit down and I plan out my entire week, and I have gym time. I have it written down.
Yeah.
I actually have time for me just to get on the internet and just be sociable.
Yeah.
Not every day, but I have that time. But then what I am finding is that because I'm operating on a schedule, I have more time than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's difficult for me because I work better under pressure. I like to procrastinate. I do some of my best work.
And that's another one well received, man, because I'm still trying to find like happy medium. Right, I'm on either side of this extreme.
Yeah.
Well, I'm being a great teacher, but I'm being a horrible Neela student. But I'm not. There's no time for Donnell in there.
Yeah.
Or I'm being like this great Neela student, but I'm being a horrible teacher, and there's still no time for Donnell. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I'm still trying to find.
And I'll tell you, you're not going to find it right now because, well, I didn't find it while I was in the program. I didn't. I struggled, you know, as I said, my class still continued.
Yeah.
Neela still continued. And those instructors wanted what they wanted.
Yeah.
Though they worked with me, they wanted what they wanted. It wasn't until I got into the field that I began to find that balance. It was, and now in retrospect, I think about even my undergrad. You know, I don't know that there was ever a true balance.
Yeah.
You know, you just do what you do.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed college, but most of my time I spent in the books.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I spent most of it.
And I'd agree.
Yeah.
What skill sets would you recommend that I build in the last year of the program?
I would recommend that you build organization. Organization. Today, my desk, my work area is clean.
Yeah.
If you had come in 2 weeks ago, we would probably have to do this interview somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I had papers all over, papers everywhere, color coded, of course, but organization is real key in this position because someone is going to come ask you for something, and you need to be able to put your hands on it. You need to know where you saw it, where you had it. It's about time management, and the organization leads to time management.
Yeah.
So the organization piece, you know, just really being structured, because you're not just leading yourself now. Once you get in the field, you're leading your staff, you're leading your students, and the community is looking at how well you're organized. They want, you know, starting your PTSA at 6:01, and you said you were going to start at 6 o'clock, you will not believe the number of complaints that you can get because of 1 minute.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can get another complaint. Well, you said 6 o'clock, and it's, you know, and it's just 6:01. You know, you didn't have, we missed something. But having that organization, because you have a community that's following you and not just you anymore.
That's another one that's well received.
Yeah.
My brain works here, 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 and here. So I'm still trying to find a medium there.
And mine does too. And what I'm learning through my staff is, just because it happened in my head and just because I put it on paper, it doesn't mean that it translates to them.
Yeah.
So being able to translate everything that you do into a form or that they can understand and follow, it makes a big difference. Because I can remember my first couple of days, I had these wonderful ideas and my staff was so engaged. They were like, ready, we're going to conquer the world, and our school is going to be on top of the mountain. And when the children showed up, there was a big disconnect.
Yeah.
And the disconnect was, I had wonderful ideas. I walked them through different scenarios and we practiced. But because the vocabulary wasn't the way they understood it, they couldn't take it and give it to the children.
Yeah.
Sort of like the classroom teacher.
For sure.
Yeah. So you have to pull it into a form.
There's a few more questions.
Sure,
I'd
no
like to
problem.
ask you. Trying to find some really good ones. Okay. Did your principal, your coach, to provide you with the type and amount of support you needed during your internship phase? Why or why not?
I think he did. He did. He spent time with me. A lot of time he was very busy. And at the beginning, and this is in my second placement. I had 2 placements, but my second placement, my principal was very busy, and I wanted to make sure that I did not waste his time. I wanted to value his time, so I tried to make sure I had all my duckies in order. And then to the day he sat down, well, we didn't sit down. He called me one Sunday afternoon and invited me to ride with him to the school, and we talked. And at that point, that's when I realized that I needed him, and he then began to spend the time with me that I needed, and the support that I needed. And it wasn't that he was never too busy for me. It just appeared that way to me. Yeah, so he did give me the support. He allowed me to. I started making forms for him that he still uses today. He allowed me to make some decisions. He allowed me to put programs into the school. He wanted an SGA in the school, and he allowed me to put that whole process together. Today, I said I practiced in his school, and I perfected it in my school.
For sure.
My problem of practice was on attendance, and he gave me the run of the school to do whatever I needed to do to make sure that I was successful with that. And then when I needed to be reprimanded, he did that too. So.
What resources on rural school leadership do you still consult, or you could recommend, or you wish still existed? That one in which like Nela could create.
I think I wish that we could spend more time with the rural development program. Being in rural North Carolina, I wish we had a better opportunity to actually get out and see where people come from.
Yeah.
It's different from the community internship because you're only in that community. I had Dr. Doris Williams for our community partnership.
Yeah, we have her.
Really good. Yeah. Really good. And the knowledge that she had. But it wasn't until I got into the field that it made sense. Last week I had Randy Gore, who is the North Carolina Director of Rural Development, and he works directly with President Obama. And he was here in our building, and he was talking about farming and talking about agriculture.
Yeah.
And, we spent so much time talking about college readiness that we forgot all about what is actually going on in rural North Carolina. And in rural North Carolina, we're still farming.
Yeah.
So being able to get into those things, I wish we had spent more time with rural development.